In Iceland, under the shadow of the mighty volcano Kotla, strange events begin to unfold. A woman covered in ash suddenly emerges from a hidden tunnel beneath the volcano. Kotla has been erupting continuously for a full year, and the skies are thick with clouds of ash that blanket everything in sight. The once bustling nearby town of Vik is now almost abandoned, with most residents forced to evacuate. Only a handful of stubborn locals remain, working tirelessly in dangerous conditions, rescuing lost tourists, cleaning the carcasses of animals suffocated by ash, and studying the changes in the glacier. Among those who stayed behind is Grima, a member of the rescue squad. Her husband, Kjartan, runs their farm, though their marriage has grown tense. He longs to leave for a safer life, but Grima refuses. For her, the eruption has one unbearable shadow: the disappearance of her beloved sister Asa. Even though a year has passed, Grima cannot let go of the hope that Asa might still be alive somewhere. Her depression isolates her, and her father, Thor, often visits to urge her to leave Vik behind. He insists she and Kjartan should move to the city and start over, but Grima clings to the land and to her memories. Far away, volcanologist Dari examines new samples from Kotla. What he sees troubles him: unusual changes in the volcano's activity. Realizing something is very wrong, he decides he must travel to Vik to investigate in person. Meanwhile, at the observation post near the volcano, two workers, Asa's old colleagues Asa and Leifur, spot the mysterious ash-covered woman wandering aimlessly in the haze. They rush to her aid, bundle her into their vehicle, and bring her inside. The woman seems lost, confused, and cold, but eventually she speaks, asking simply, "Where am I?" She introduces herself as Gunhild. Police Chief Gisli is quickly called in. He has his own struggles. His wife Magnea is terminally ill with cancer, and her fragile lungs are being destroyed faster by the poisonous ash in the air. He begs her to leave Vik for her own safety, but Magnea refuses, choosing to stay by his side until the end. When Thor hears about Gunhild, he rushes to the clinic. The moment he sees her, his face turns pale with shock, and without saying a word, he runs away. Grima follows him home, only to find him burying a dead bird in silence. She asks about Gunhild, but Thor refuses to explain anything, avoiding her questions. Elsewhere, Gisli investigates further. At the nearly deserted Hotel Vik, he questions Bergerun, the manager. She explains that she's the only worker left now, but years ago, decades ago in fact, there had been an employee named Gunhild. When Gisli brings Bergerun to the clinic, the young woman immediately recognizes her old boss and even apologizes for skipping shifts, as if no time has passed. Confused, Bergerun digs into the hotel's old records. To her shock, she finds a photograph of the former employee. The woman in the clinic is identical, unchanged despite the 20 years that have gone by. Gisli phones the number on the file, and a man named Björn answers. He explains that his mother, Gunhild, lives with him but is not home at the moment. When the young Gunhild speaks to him on the line, Björn is stunned. The voice is unmistakably that of his mother. Back at Thor's home, something even stranger happens. That night, the bird he buried comes back to life. Bewildered, Thor digs up the grave and finds the corpse still there, identical in every detail to the living bird before him. Two versions of the same creature, dead and alive, exist at the same time. Meanwhile, Grima makes another startling discovery. While working near the abandoned outposts, she notices a door ajar and spots blood on a cracked window. Inside, she finds someone she thought she would never see again. Her sister Asa, alive, disoriented, and covered in ash. Asa's return opens old wounds. A year earlier, during a rescue mission on snowmobiles, her vehicle failed, and while the others continued on, she was left behind in the blinding storm of ash. Her radio failed, and when the team realized she was missing, it was too late. They later found her snowmobile stuck in a crevasse, but no body. Everyone assumed she had perished. Now, here she is, claiming she remembers only fragments. The mission, someone injecting her with something sharp, and then nothing but darkness until her reappearance. At the clinic, Doctors examine both Asa and Gunhild. Gunhild is told her memory loss could be from hypothermia, but a shocking revelation follows. She is pregnant. For a woman who appears to have stepped out of the past, this discovery deepens the mystery. Meanwhile, far away, the older real Gunhild learns about the double in Vik. Against her son's warnings, she decides to travel there, determined to uncover the truth. As more questions than answers emerge, Grima dreams of her mother walking into the sea, a haunting image of grief that mirrors her depression. The people of Vik are beginning to realize the impossible. The eruption of Kotla isn't just spewing ash and fire. It seems to be opening the ground for something far stranger. The dead are returning, unchanged, as if time has frozen for them, and each arrival shakes the fragile lives of the living. Grima begins to wonder if Asa might not have simply reappeared out of nowhere, but perhaps had actually been kidnapped and kept hidden for the entire year. The thought weighs on her, but for now, she's simply relieved to have her sister back. When the two leave the clinic, Grima embraces Asa tightly, whispering how much she loves her. Yet Asa feels awkward, distant, as if that year apart has built a wall between them. Back at the farm, Asa discovers her own obituary in the house. She stares at the words that declare her dead and gone, asking quiet questions about what her funeral was like and who came to mourn her. The realization sinks in fully when she visits the cemetery. There, she sees her own grave lying side by side with their mother's. While she tries to process the surreal sight, the strange black bird with a white feather, the one that had returned from the dead, flies down and lands gently on her arm. Instead of being afraid, Asa smiles and calls the bird her new friend. Meanwhile, the older Gunhild finally arrives in Vik and heads straight to the hotel. She reunites with Bergerun, the manager, and the two women recognize each other instantly. They reminisce briefly about the old days before Gunhild explains that she needs a car. Bergerun explains that in the chaos since the eruption, it has become normal to take any abandoned vehicle left on the streets. Armed with this advice, Gunhild proceeds to the clinic, where she comes face to face with the impossible sight of her younger self. Seeing the young woman, healthy and vibrant, leaves her completely shaken. When questioned, the young Gunhild calmly states something even more shocking. She claims that Thor is the father of her unborn child. Horrified, the older Gunhild confronts Thor afterward. He is baffled, swearing that he never laid a hand on this younger version of Gunhild and that what she's saying can't be true. That evening, Grima and Asa drive together through the ash-filled roads, laughing for the first time in years as they recall old childhood memories. For a moment, it feels like things might be normal again. But their laughter is cut short when Grima slams on the brakes. An entire herd of animals blocks the road. As the sisters look closer, they notice streaks of blood covering the creature's fur, leaving them uneasy. Back home, tensions flare when Asa becomes angry at the sight of young Gunhild casually eating dinner with her family as if she belongs there. Elsewhere, volcanologist Dari hears noises in the dark corners of his quarters. Investigating, he pulls back a blanket, only to discover his son Mikil sitting there covered in ash. The boy had died years earlier, but here he is, alive again. Flashbacks reveal more of Grima and Asa's childhood. They had once been playful children, running through the house and jumping on the bed until tragedy struck. Their mother, who struggled with mental health issues, was overwhelmed by the chaos. One day, Grima smelled food burning in the kitchen, only to discover that her mother was gone. All that remained was her robe, left behind, implying she had walked out into the sea to end her life. This memory continues to haunt Grima deeply. Back at the farm, one of the cows is found dead, with the mysterious black bird perched ominously on its carcass. Kjartan explains that the cow had escaped the night before and likely became contaminated by the volcanic ash. He was forced to put it down, since polluted animals could not be used for milk. At the observation post, Leifor and Asa notice that Dari is behaving strangely. He brushes them off, claiming he hasn't slept well, and takes his food upstairs. Secretly, he sneaks the meal to Mikil, who eagerly eats and recalls fond memories of his mother's cooking. When the boy tries to go to the bathroom, Dari won't let him. forcing him to use a bottle instead. Desperate to keep his son hidden, Dari feigns illness to avoid joining his colleagues on their next trip. Once they leave, he cleans Mikhail up, asking him intimate questions only his real son would know. The boy answers perfectly, even remembering the disturbing incident where he cut the wings off his pet parrot. Satisfied, Dari begins medical checks, even drawing blood from his child. Yet beneath the joy, there's an undertone of fear. Meanwhile, back at the farm, Grima grows suspicious of Asa. Her sister acts strangely, answering questions vaguely and showing no memory of the missing year. When Grima admits that she wanted to keep searching but was too broken to continue, Asa coldly retorts that maybe she would have been found sooner if they hadn't given up. Hurt by the accusation, Grima storms off. Later, she panics when she finds Asa missing, frantically searching the abandoned streets until she locates her in the park. The two argue again, but eventually Asa promises not to leave without telling her. The sisters later stumble into an abandoned shop, stealing swimsuits before heading to the hot springs. They bond over their grief for their mother, but tragedy once again intrudes. As they swim, Grima hallucinates her mother beneath the water, reaching for her. Panicked, she bursts to the surface, only to realize Asa has disappeared. Just as terror grips her, Asa playfully jumps out from behind to startle her. Grima, however, is shaken and furious, demanding they seek answers about Asa's return instead of pretending things are normal. Elsewhere, Leifour soars away at the glacier for samples, while Gisli takes his sick wife Magnea out hunting. For a fleeting moment, she feels beautiful and loved as he dresses her and applies her makeup. But later, as the dead animal's blood pools inside their vehicle, she recoils in disgust. That night, while she sleeps, Gisli wrestles with his loneliness, nearly giving in to temptation with adult magazines instead of his ailing wife. Back at the clinic, the two Gunhilds meet again during an ultrasound. The younger insists she is truly Gunhild, and that Thor is the father of her baby. The older Gunhild reveals that Thor's wife has long been dead, leaving the younger version stunned. When Thor arrives and sees them both together, the room grows tense. Outside, the older Gunhild warns Thor that he must not confuse the young woman with the lover he once knew. In her eyes, this girl is nothing more than an imposter, or worse, a dangerous stalker. Meanwhile, Mikhail struggles to sleep in the shed where his father secretly locked him away. Crying, he whispers that he loves Dari, but receives no comfort. Desperate, he finds an emergency phone and calls his mother, Raquel. Shocked, she nearly crashes her car when she hears her dead son's voice. Mikhail also stumbles upon a utility knife hidden in the shed. That night, when the power mysteriously goes out, Leifa checks the fuse box and notices someone has cut the cables. Dari frantically searches for Mikhail, who narrowly avoids being discovered by hiding in the shadows. Elsewhere, Grima dreams once again of her sister trapped under the sea before waking in distress. Her husband Kjartan confronts her at breakfast, frustrated that even with Asa's return, she remains distant and unhappy. Grima can only mutter that he doesn't understand. Asa overhears this tense exchange, silently realizing the cracks in their marriage. Raquel easily secures a ferry ride since she's the wife of a well-known scientist in Vic, giving her some privileges. Meanwhile, at the observation post, young Mikael confesses to Dari that he doesn't fully trust him. Before Dari can respond, his phone rings. It's Raquel. She reveals that she received a call from Mikael earlier, which leaves her both shaken and hopeful. Dari tries to convince her that the boy is not really their son, but rather something else entirely. Still, Raquel refuses to believe him. She insists she's going to Vic no matter what, determined to bring her son home. Later that day at the hotel, Dari shows up with Mikael, who wastes no time rushing into his mother's arms. Raquel breaks into tears as she hugs her son tightly, overwhelmed with joy and relief. Dari, however, feels sick to his stomach and retreats to the bathroom to vomit. In private, tensions flare between him and Raquel. She's convinced this is a miracle, a second chance to have her boy back, while Dari is certain this isn't their child at all. To him, Mikael feels dangerous, almost otherworldly. His mind flashes back to the time Miguel set his school on fire and how Raquel had covered it up to protect him. That memory only strengthens Dari's suspicions. At the clinic, the younger version of Gunhild is finally discharged. She decides to stay at the hotel for the time being. The older Gunhild, unsettled by everything, calls Bjorn to check on him and promises she'll be home soon. After the call, Bjorn digs through old belongings until he finds an old photograph of Gunhild and Thor, which gives him an idea. Later, both Gunhilds confront Thor at the same time. The younger one blurts out a memory about the day Asa caught her and Thor in a compromising situation. Furious, the older Gunhild storms out of the room. Thor quickly follows to reassure her, swearing that he never told anyone about that private detail. That's when the truth is revealed. Years ago, Thor and the real Gunhild had an affair, and Asa had indeed caught them red-handed. This revelation shakes the older Gunhild to her core. She can't fathom how a strange young woman could know such an intimate detail about her past. Distraught, she leaves. Thor, meanwhile, confronts the younger Gunhild, who insists she is the Gunhild he once loved. She resembles her so closely, down to the smallest mannerism, that Thor gives in and lies down with her as if she were the same woman from 20 years ago. Elsewhere, Grima decides she needs answers. She takes Asa to the glacier, determined to get to the bottom of her mysterious return. On the way, Asa notices that Grima has been taking anxiety medication, just like their late mother once did. They finally arrive at the abandoned building, where they notice the cracked window stained with blood. Convinced someone tried to break in, they investigate further. Beneath a loose floorboard, they discover a bundle of clothes covered in ash. Since they can't pull it out from above, the sisters decide to dig outside until they can crawl underneath. Asa is the first to go in, but after only a moment, she emerges pale and terrified. Grima, curious and determined, crawls inside herself, and what she finds horrifies her. Lying beneath the floor is Asa's dead body. Shocked, she stumbles out and stares at the living Asa beside her, struggling to comprehend what she truly is. Not long after, Gisla and his team arrive to begin an investigation. Asa, rattled, flees home, only to walk in on Thor and the younger Gunhild in another intimate moment. Ashamed and heartbroken, she rushes away. Later, Dari hears of the discovery and fears Miguel may somehow be connected. He immediately contacts Gisla, claiming he has also found another strange wanderer. When Gisla comes to the hotel, Raquel spots him through the window and panics. Grabbing Miguel, she climbs down the fire escape and escapes with him by car. Dari notices too late. They're already gone. He jumps into his own car to follow, but his vehicle stalls in the middle of the road, leaving him stranded. Meanwhile, Grima is called to the police station to testify. When shown a photograph of the body, she admits it looks exactly like Asa. Suddenly, an alarm from the observation post goes off. Gisla brushes it off, saying it's just a malfunction caused by the wind. But Grima is uneasy. What if someone really needs help? She decides to go investigate. On her way, Dari sees an enormous ash storm rolling toward the town and flees for cover. In Raquel's car, Miguel vents his hatred toward Dari, wishing him dead. As the ash storm closes in, Raquel is forced to pull over. To pass the time, she asks Miguel about the fire at his school. He admits it was no accident, and though he was bullied, he secretly felt joy as he hoped his classmates would burn. He chillingly declares he won't play nice anymore, and warns that if Dari ever locks him up again, he'll kill him. When Miguel asks to step out of the car to pee, Raquel allows it, but overcome with fear, she drives off the second he exits. Back in town, the older Gunhild pays Thor another visit, only to find the younger Gunhild still there. She tries to share important news, but is interrupted by a strange noise outside. Thor investigates and finds the peculiar bird dead. Returning inside, he is met with an argument. Gunhild is furious that Thor has been intimate with a woman who stole her face and identity. Thor, however, believes the impossible, that they're the same person existing at different points in time. He admits he doesn't understand it, but claims he's simply happy to have his old lover back. At the hotel, Bergrun confronts Dari, warning him that he never should have gone near the boy. She reminds him of the old legends, the changelings, supernatural doubles left behind after the real person has been taken. Meanwhile, Gisela interrogates Asa with a photo of the corpse, but she refuses to admit any connection. Afterward, Asa reunites with Einar, Gisela's son, who once had feelings for her. They sneak away to an abandoned house where they drink, share memories, and even kiss. But Asa grows uneasy and leaves. She ends up back at the clinic where she breaks down crying until the doctor allows her to stay the night. On the road, Grima's car suddenly breaks down in the middle of the storm. She checks the engine but notices movement in the observation post nearby. Investigating inside, she discovers a shocking sight: another woman, covered in ash, who looks exactly like her. When the storm passes, Grima takes her double home, though the woman cannot answer any questions. Meanwhile, Raquel regrets abandoning Miquel and returns to find him gone. A pair of locals have already discovered the boy and called the hotel. Dari promises he'll collect him. Raquel arrives shortly after, confessing her guilt, but Dari reassures her their son is safe. The couple who found Miquel listen to his story, horrified by his claims that Dari abused him. When Dari and Raquel finally arrive, the strangers refuse to hand over the boy and decide to take him to the police. As they drive, Miquel becomes restless. He suddenly opens the car door, trying to jump out. The woman restrains him, but in a flash of violence, Miquel slashes her throat with the utility knife he stole earlier. Her husband panics, losing control of the vehicle, which swerves off the road and crashes. The man is killed instantly, while Miquel climbs from the wreckage, watching coldly as life drains from the man's eyes. Back in town, Gisela returns home only to discover a horrifying miracle: a younger, healthier duplicate of his wife Magnia. He rushes to their bedroom and finds the real Magnia, frail, sick, and terrified. Yet he can't help but feel relief and joy at seeing her vibrant double, even shedding tears. But things turn grim quickly. When young Magnia tries to help feed the older one, the older Magnia knocks the food away in anger. Later, Gisela notices ash on the younger woman's back, and in secret, the older Magnia scribbles a warning in his notebook: "She is a devil. Get her out." Young Magnia finds the note and confronts the older one, but Gisela interrupts and silences them. When young Magnia later tries to leave the house for fresh air, Gisela panics. He doesn't want the townsfolk to see her. He forcibly locks her in the basement. Meanwhile, Thor notices blood on the younger Gunhild's clothes and rushes her to the clinic. The doctor keeps her overnight for observation, news overheard by Asa, who is still lost in confusion. At Grima's home, the newly discovered second Grima demands to know why she's been hidden away. At that moment, Grima receives an urgent call about the car accident. Before leaving, she writes a note for her husband, explaining, "This woman isn't me. I'll explain later." When Kyan comes home, he finds the note, only to be startled when the clone of Grima embraces him tightly from behind. After some time passes, tensions begin to rise when people start noticing strange changes. A couple searches for their missing child, but nobody has seen the boy. Raquel decides to open up about Miquel's mysterious death and his shocking return. However, when he shares the story with Gisela, she becomes uncomfortable and brushes it off, calling Raquel delusional before leaving. Determined to find answers, Raquel takes Grima to meet Dari, hoping she can share her experiences with her sister Asa and with Gunhild. During their conversation, Grima reveals a painful truth: she also has a clone. Dari immediately connects the dots and suspects all of this is somehow tied to Katla and the strange energy it emits. Meanwhile, at the clinic, Thor visits the older version of Gunhild. With a gentle kiss on her forehead, he shows his affection, unaware that Asa is secretly spying on them. When Gunhild wakes up, Asa confronts her, asking if she truly loves Thor. Gunhild admits she has never loved anyone as much as him. Asa, though conflicted, softens for a moment and admits she has never seen Thor this happy before. Gunhild comforts her, bridging an emotional gap between the two women. Elsewhere, Gisela goes to pick up Magnea's medicine. The doctor reminds him that she doesn't have much time left. On his way home, he stops at a store to buy herbal remedies, which he uses to secretly replace her actual medicine. Back at home, he feeds Magnea the fake supplements. Later, he sneaks food down to the basement where her clone is locked up, whispering to her to be patient because soon they will be together. But Magnea is resourceful, using him at embrace, exchanging words of love. Meanwhile, Dari continues his investigation. With AR and Leaf by his side, he climbs deep into the volcano crevice. After navigating through a dark tunnel, he notices pieces of rock falling from a strange moving wall. To his horror, he discovers dozens of bodies hidden among the stones, covered in ash. Later, when they return to the lab, Dari secretly analyzes the samples. When he mixes the ashes with liquid, they shockingly begin to move. After further testing, he reveals his discovery: a meteorite buried beneath the volcano thousands of years ago. The eruption spread its fragments across the land, influencing everything. AR fears the meteorite may be radioactive, insisting everyone should leave immediately. Elsewhere, Grima finally confronts Asa with the DNA results, proving the real Asa's body was found. Asa, devastated, questions her existence and purpose, realizing she technically no longer belongs in the world. Tearfully, she tells Grima how much she loves her and begs her not to stop her. With that, Asa walks into the ocean, choosing to end herself, mirroring how their mother had done years ago. This painful moment gives Grima closure, suggesting Asa's clone was created to help her process grief. As the volcano spews ash, strange stirrings are felt beneath the earth. The bodies in the tunnel begin to awaken. Meanwhile, Thor learns that young Gunhild's baby is also disabled, confirming it was due to a genetic defect, not because of the failed abortion. Relieved of her guilt, Gunhild embraces her son Bjorn, but while she decides to leave, Bjorn wishes to stay and bond with Thor. Later, when Gunhild visits her younger self at the clinic, she discovers the bed is empty. Symbolically, her changeling disappears after fulfilling its role, helping her move past guilt and pain. Miquel also resurfaces, sneaking back into town to find his parents. Tearfully, he admits to killing the woman in the accident, but they remain silent. The family leaves together, though Dari realizes Miquel is still carrying the knife. When asked to give it up, he only obeys Rockel's gentle plea. On the beach, they let him play one last time. Dari theorizes the meteorite manifested Miquel as a projection of their grief and guilt. With heavy hearts, his parents drown him in the sea until he vanishes, his purpose complete, helping them finally move on. Back in town, Gisla takes the elderly Magnea on a ride, still obsessed with reuniting with her clone. However, chaos erupts when both Magneas end up together. Gisla, unable to tell them apart, raises his gun in confusion, giving them a chance to escape. When his son Einar later discovers his father's cruel deception, switching real medicine with fake herbs, he furiously beats him and disowns him forever. Unlike other changelings, Magnea's clone did not come to help Gisla. She came to save Magnea from his abuse. In the final act, Grima confronts her clone once more. The double insists she only exists because Grima's pain and Asa's disappearance created a void, but Grima, desperate to reclaim her life, challenges her clone to a deadly game of Russian roulette. After several tense rounds, one of them finally dies, implying the clone's existence was tied to Kiran's longing for a happier wife. Free from the shadow of her double, Grima begins to heal, playing the piano again after years of silence, with Thor, Bjorn, and Kiran listening like a true family. Yet beneath the volcano, the story isn't over. The ashen bodies finish awakening, crawling out of the tunnel, hinting at a much greater horror to come. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss more epic recaps like this. Thanks for watching.